Good afternoon. So we're going to try and make our way as best as we can without visuals. You must bring your best imagination. I'm relying on you. So we're going to start by talking through database selection and the relative strengths and the applications of vector and graph databases. At what point does ML become deep learning, and how many layers between the input and the output layer make it deep learning? And how will we leverage generative adversarial networks to improve the accuracy of convolutional autoencoders? I'm just kidding. We're not doing any of that. Do you ever feel like you're learning a new language at these conferences? We're not. We're going to talk about AI adoption in HR. And we're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation. What you can't see, because my family's not purple, is the picture of my family and a little bit about myself. So I'll just tell you. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, by way of Philadelphia. I did an undergraduate degree in philosophy, not because I wanted to be unemployed. I wanted to go to law school. I did that until I met a woman who didn't want to be a law school girlfriend, and like all 22-year-olds, abandoned every plan I had made to that point in my life to see where that relationship might go. She's now the wife and the mother of my two children, who you can't see. I prefer to be known for my dad jokes, but we will fall back on digital transformation and how to drive change. Okay, nice to meet you. So what I want to do in this presentation is less to give you knowledge that you lean on and say, it's absolutely certain that Steve is right. And it's even a little bit less a firm logical structure that you could map out my argument and say that I agree with it. You might want to classify it more in the category of wisdom, right? Where if I could leave you walking out of the room thinking that there was something that I feel like I should consider, then I've accomplished my goal. Now, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Somebody explained it to me this way: knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we should think about as we're driving change and driving TA or IT adoption within HR. 70% of digital transformations fail to reach their objectives. Does anybody have a project that they've led that's in that metric? I do. I was with an organization unknown at some indescript period of time in the past, and I was given a project to do something I had done many, many times before. I thought it was a layup. I licked my lips. I was excited to put another W on the resume and deployed a playbook that I had run many, many times before. About a month in, none of the metrics were moving. Incidentally, none of the people were moving. By no measure could I see that I had set any plan or that we had agreed to anything. And I went and I talked to one of the leaders and I said, this is so unexpected. Why isn't anything changing? And she said, because I don't intend to change. I was like, well, what about all of the agreements and the process and the metrics and the things that we were going to do? And she's like, I had a boss before you for a year and I had a boss before them for a year. I'm going to wait you out. I've been here for over a decade. The things that prevent change are not always just that the idea wasn't good enough. Sometimes the things that prevent change are simply that people don't want to. They don't have any desire to change. That's my slide. What are we going to do, and how could we be more effective helping people see the case for change, see themselves in the change, and then buy into the plan and the vision that you cast so that you can bring the organization along? If you're in this room, I imagine that you have something that you want to drive adoption for. If you have a digital transformation, a technology, something simple like implementing a CRM that has a little bit of predictive analytics in it, hope that we find something in the category of wisdom in our conversation. If that's not what you're in the room for, you could also just apply this to how do I get people to do anything? We've all got people in our lives that we want to do things. And so what could we do to think well about how we might help people play along and accomplish things with us? Okay. There's a lot of reasons why digital transformation or change initiatives in general fail. I'm in the middle of a target operating model transformation right now. It's been running for about a year. It's going very, very well. Each of these areas, 1 through 4, I've seen shadows of, I've seen bits and pieces of, I've needed to pay attention to, and I've needed to protect against. However, what I want to talk about specifically is resistance to change. I want to talk about that woman that said 30 days into the transformation, I have no intention of doing it. What are you going to do? I didn't have an answer then. I hadn't screwed that up yet to begin to formulate a plan on what I'm going to do. This is the ad card change model. I like it. I think it's good. I apply it in the way that I drive change management. I apply it in the way that I try and think compassionately and empathetically about the people that I'm driving absolutely nuts with implementations and transformations and things that generate fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think the ad card model has two distinct categories. It's got the things that are easy to do and the things that are hard to do. I think these are the things that are easy to do. Awareness, knowledge, and reinforcement. In order to generate awareness, knowledge, and to reinforce, you need to be disciplined. You need to prepare. Oh, is that not too loud? And I can often, just by showing up, generate awareness, give you knowledge, and reinforce a message. I don't necessarily need to do a lot of negotiating with you. Anybody go through a change plan and do these 3 steps and wonder why it didn't work? There's a lot of change plans. I told them what we were going to do. I told them how they were going to succeed in it, and then I said it over. But it still didn't work. Because there's 2 other parts. There's the hard parts. Desire and ability. These are negotiated. I can't make you desire something. And it may be odd to see ability up there, but ability is negotiated too. A specific aspect of ability. The belief that our people have in themselves and their ability to see themselves in the future. Now, I'm going to spend most of the time on desire, so I'm going to make an allusion to authority for ability. There is an article that if you like this topic, I would recommend you take a look at, The Boundary Conditions of the Glacier Effect. It's the first in the wild study of the glacier effect. Most of the work that has been done in IR research on the glacier effect is in artificial scenarios. So the applicability to the business context is worthy to question. This article is actually a in the wild study of the glacial effect. When you read it, as you go through it, as you're getting to the parts where they say that the glacier effect is short-lived, don't abandon the article and say that guy was crazy on stage. Read the last paragraph. The glacier effect, when it comes to self-reported senses of ability, is relevant for change. The glacial effect lasts for about 120 days. Okay. I'm going to skip over that and appeal to authority. I want to talk about desire. Desire is often referred to as what's in it for me. I don't like what's in it for me as a way to think about desire, because I don't think that that actually describes why we want things very well. I think that each of us can probably identify with a sense of duty at work. Each of us can probably identify with a sense of curiosity at work. Many of us, I hope, can identify with a sense of value at work. It's worth it. And it's not always straightforward to say that I see those things as what's in it for me. In order to really drive change within your organization, you need to negotiate. And you need to understand what your people need in order to desire. So the first thing I want to encourage you to consider when it comes to desire is that 1, you need to negotiate for it. 2, you need to avoid the things that are antagonistic to desire. And 3, don't ask people to do something you haven't given them the antecedents to desire for. Okay. If you're wondering when are we going to talk about AI, it's next. AI introduces some really tricky things into digital transformation, especially within human resources. Okay, so each of us see these words up here: to be seen, to be known, to be anticipated, and I hope you have memories of a happy childhood or someone in your life that loves you. Like, these are good things, right? We want these things when they come from people. When they come from technology, we're not quite as sure that we're comfortable with it. What does my son say when he's proud of something? Dad, look. What do I feel when I walk into the bar and they know what I drink, that I'm home? How do I think about my friends conspiring to figure out what I want for my birthday? I feel anticipated. I want these things. Now, how do you feel about a video doorbell that sells your data to 1,000 different organizations on the basis of a provision in its privacy contract that you skipped over? Ick. Like, I'd rather not. 2012, Facebook demonstrated that it can calculate when and instrumentally determine how it will craft social contagion of specific emotions. Right? We're not crazy about this stuff, right? Like all of a sudden, we've got these technologies creating human emotions and replicating things that we want in our personal lives from people. This is why the question of AI and HR is so interesting, is because it intersects with things that we care about in a way that is unique. Generative AI, when you jump on ChatGPT or you go into some image creation, is a novel, creative, and delightful experience because it's not making predictive or definitive or classification statements about you as a person. It's fun to play with, and I don't mean to minimize it that way. But if we look at some of the literature and some of the thought leadership in HR about what people are proposing might be applications for AI, these are real applications that people are talking about. What if we had surveillance and continuous listening of the phone and the team system so that we could identify the best managers and pay for performance? Feel that in your belly? It's ick. No, I don't like that, right? Now I'm going to give you a different application. Pillar HR records video interviews, and it shows when the behavior of the interviewer decreases the engagement of the candidate. There's not much ick there, right? Because we're participating with the AI system. We aren't being objectified or classified by the AI system. What I'm going to suggest to you is that as we look at AI applications in HR, when we are going to objectify, classify, or remove the human from the process, it is going to generate a moral aversion. The reason I care is less because of the moral aversion. I do care about that, but I care because moral aversion is an antagonist to desire. If we go back to what has to occur for change to occur, we need to be able to cultivate desire. Desire is negotiated, and as a good leader of change, you are not going to introduce antagonists to desire. Here's another real-life application from a thought leader in HR. I got 5 minutes. How much do I get for the laptop thing? Just kidding. Let me think of the fastest way to get to here to there. What if we consumed all of the skills cloud data on an employee and we integrated that with the open source internet data available, and we made a determination on the highest potential employees on that basis? Are you clapping because you hate that or because you like that? I don't know, but that's a real thing. It's in an article that was published about a week ago. For most of us, we're like, is that great? I mean, is that really what an employee is worth? It makes us feel a little bit icky. Now, here's a different scenario. Plum is a psychometric that does a very similar thing. It creates a profile of an individual based on the derailers that they face and the tailwinds that bring out the best in them. And then it helps identify team composition that amplifies individual performance on the basis of the complementary profiles of the team members. That's also AI. We're not classifying, we're not objectifying, and we're not removing the person. We are amplifying the potential in people. We are very sensitive when it comes to change in the application of technology if we think that it is minimizing, it is setting a definition, it is putting a range on what people are capable of. However, AI has an extraordinary potential, and the reason why it is worth fighting for being able to drive change well in AI is because applications like Plum and Pillar HR and the other things that are on your mind are worth fighting for. But as change leaders or as those that are driving digital transformation, you owe it to your people and you owe it to the potential in the technology to not introduce antagonists to desire like moral aversion in the examples that I've given you. All right, I'm trying to skip. Okay, so I'm going to skip a section and I'm going to come here. So let's imagine that we have negotiated for and we are happy with the way that we are planting desire. I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean it in a sincere way. If any of you guys are married, you know that relationships don't just bloom. You got to invest in those things. We have agreed and invested in planting desire, in negotiating for desire in our change strategy. We have decided to not step on the things that drive moral aversion. We are not objectifying, we are not classifying, and we are not removing people in our sales pitch. What now do I do? Do I go to the 600 people and give them the pitch? I would say no. Different people in your organization are going to need different things to be able to experience desire for change. If you ran the best change management program in the world, is the diffusion of innovation curve going to go away? Say it with me. No. The very best change management in the world gives you an ability to compress the timeline that the diffusion of innovation occurs over, but it doesn't make it go away. In any randomly distributed crowd, you're going to have about 15% of the people that are able to be motivated by the art of the possible. The stuff Accenture sells. I love it. I gobble it up. That's what I want. Then you're going to have about 35% of the crowd that's not going to be interested in the art of the possible. They want to know who's experienced it. Who's the person that can represent this possibility? And then on the back half of the curve, you've got those that want the proof points. I don't care who experienced it, what's the data, and you've got the kickers and the screamers. Hopefully none of you are the kickers and the screamers. We've all got them. Okay, so when you're driving change and as you're going through the ADKAR model, you want to focus on your innovators and your early adopters, the ones that are able to experience desire on the basis of what is possible. You create unnecessary friction and heat and pressure in your organization when you go to everybody at once because they need different things. Now, here's the beauty of going to the early adopters. They give the early majority what they need, and the early majority give the late majority what they need, and the laggards, well, they're the laggards. So, running good change and driving strong change management is worth it. Negotiating desire is hard, but the right investment, because if we trigger moral aversion, if we introduce things that prevent people from being able to experience desire, or we go to them with things that we haven't given them what they need to be able to desire the change, is going to inhibit the impact of the technology that does have huge potential and why we're all here at this conference. So, thank you very much.